Alex Pretti shot 10 times while laying face down by law enforcement officers. And we also know he was basically just holding a phone, being manhandled and shot 10 times. When he was laying face down with several people
with a
on top
weapon
of
in
him.
his waistband initially. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying I can't jump to that conclusion because I don't know what happened on the ground. That's why there's an investigation still ongoing.
Did you provide Secretary Noem with an assessment of what Mr. Pretti was engaged in and that he was engaged in domestic terrorism? Is that why she said that? Is because you told her?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Why would she tell the public that this was an act of domestic terrorism?
I can't speculate on what someone else would say or why, sir.
Mr. Lyons?
Sir, I can't speculate to what the Secretary thought at that time, sir.
So we just watched on the video of previously American citizens that were basically being manhandled and pushed and hit and beaten with canisters. We didn't see on the video, but 95% of them, or 90+% of Americans who have seen that video, also shot Alex Pretti shot 10 times while laying face down in the back by law enforcement officers. And we also know he was basically just holding a phone, being manhandled and shot 10 times. So I just want to confirm with you, filming federal officers on a public street is not illegal, is it, Mr. Scott, Mr. Lyons?
Correct.
No, sir.
He did not, at least looking at the video, all of us who've watched the video, he did not attempt to harm law enforcement. No appearance of that. Is that correct?
I don't know what happened once he was on the ground, sir.
When he was laying face down with several people
With a
on top
weapon
of
in
him?
his waistband initially. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying I can't jump to that conclusion because I don't know what happened on the ground. That's why there's an investigation still ongoing. Standing up, I would agree with what you just said.
Okay. So when he's on the ground with a bunch of officers on top of him after he's been hit with a canister, he was somehow still possibly harmed to law enforcement, you're saying? It's possible?
That's happened thousands of times, yes. And
Okay. Mr. Lyons, really? You saw him that as a possible threat?
Sir, from the, that wasn't an ICE operation, that was a CBP operation.
I get it, but you're a highly trained professional.
Yes, sir. No, obviously there's not enough evidence to speak to, but that's the best thing about this is the fact that I can speak for ICE, Office of Professional Responsibility, as well as CBPs, that they're the same, that we have to have a full investigation and it has to come out.
Okay.
We have to base that training on that.
So you have to have a full investigation. What everybody saw in the video, there might be some extenuating circumstances. We just don't know, but the video is very clear. And yet we had the Trump administration claim that he was attempting to inflict mass casualties. You're gonna have to explain how you had that come to that, how the Trump administration came to that conclusion when you can't even come to the conclusion that he may have been resisting when he was laying flat on his back with being beaten. How did they come to the fact that he was going to have those mass casualties? And then, quote, Secretary Noem said he was committing, quote, an act of domestic terrorism. What you saw in the video, is that what you train your officers? Someone laying on the ground, that's an act of domestic terrorism? Commissioner Scott and Acting Lyons, did you provide Secretary Noem with an assessment of what Mr. Pretti was engaged in and that he was engaged in domestic terrorism? Is that why she said that? Is because you told her? That was your belief at that time? Even though you need an awful lot of investigation now to know exactly what happened. Are you the ones that told her that?
no, sir.
No, sir.
Did anyone who reports to either of you provide this assessment to Secretary Noem that this was mass casualty, or he was attempting to inflict mass casualties and domestic terrorism? Did someone in your staff tell her that?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
No,
So
sir.
why would Secretary Noem, why would she tell the public that this was an act of domestic terrorism when right in the heat of the moment? How would she possibly come to that kind of conclusion to tell the American public that when they're watching this video?
I can't speculate on what someone else would say or why, sir.
Mr. Lyons?
Sir, I can't speculate to what the Secretary thought at that time, sir.
So it seems to me a really big question, which means that we have to have Secretary Noem here. She deserves it to the American people deserve to have the Secretary, the person who is responsible to, you are responsible to, and all the men and women ICE answer to her. She needs to be before this committee. She ducks coming out in public and talking and hasn't accepted prior invitations to come to this committee. I would hope the chairman would invite her because this is an important question. How could you come to those conclusions, those narratives, before any evidence was there, even after all that's happened since then, you two are telling me you don't have enough evidence, even though it looks so clear on the video. It should have looked really clear to her if she looked at the video, if she had it that close. A lot of this got posted pretty quickly. How she came to those conclusions, I don't expect you to know that. You didn't provide any information to her, which makes me question it even more. If she got no information from you in the chain of command, how would you come up with that kind of narrative if the chain of command wasn't doing it? Acting Director Lyons, we have all seen multiple instances of DHS personnel jumping out of unmarked cars. They will have weapons drawn. They're wearing masks. They don't have clear identification. And this, of course, immediately will escalate an encounter with the public. There's no way around it that's not escalatory when you see that coming at you. Often these masked individuals are only wearing a sign on their vest that just says police. This is the type of vest that can be easily purchased by anyone and used to basically impersonate an officer. In fact, last year, this administration, the Trump administration's FBI released a bulletin entitled, and I'm going to put this in the record without objection, Mr. Chairman, "Criminal Actors Impersonate ICE Agents to Commit Violent Crime." Are you aware of this bulletin put out by the FBI?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Scott?
Yes, sir.
So I'll put this in the record if I may, Mr. Chairman. So given this, the FBI is warning people that criminals are impersonating immigration officers. My question to you is, how can you expect any U.S. citizen to follow orders from an unidentified masked man surrounding them, given we know there are these impersonators out there that are, according to the FBI, committing a lot of crime because they're terrified. They don't know what's going on. They don't know who these people are, or they falsely believe they're a federal agent, and they aren't. They're a violent criminal. So, I mean, these tactics are causing fear. They're chaos in our communities. It's why we need, I think, to have common sense reforms to rein in these practices. What we're advocating is that the men and women who are federal agents just follow the same rules that our local police follow. Our local police are highly professional. I have the greatest respect for them. They do amazing work and put their life in harm's way regularly, but they have a set of rules that they have to follow. And that's not happening with what we're seeing with agencies related to the federal government. So I think we should have a legitimate discussion about that safety and reasonable practices going forward. And I would hope that you would support that. Just in general, do you think that you should follow the same rules of those followed by local police in our communities? Is that reasonable, Mr. Scott?
I believe you're talking about uniform standards. At CBP, we do. You have to have a name tag. It has to be clearly identified. There are times we've made exceptions on the name tag, and we used a different identifier, but it was an individual identifier so people knew who they were. And all of our agents and officers have to carry their credentials with them and their real badge with them.
So all across the board, there are a wide range. We put together a proposal of a wide range of practices that have been adopted by police organizations all across the United States of America. Would you feel comfortable abiding by the same kind of regulations and guidelines that local police follow on a whole host of issues?
I would look at those. I believe that very different law enforcement organizations have different considerations, but the general concepts, yes, and I think we do currently follow.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes, sir, I'm open to that, but one thing I'm also open to too, sir, is looking for the help from this committee and other elected officials, not only to help us bring down the rhetoric, but help us to hold those people accountable that are threatening ICE officers and agents. I think to dispel the fear of the men and women of ICE, that'd be huge. That would be a real step going.
As we've looked at the complaints, and Senator Peters has brought this up, one of the things from a lot of the different videos that are out there is the complaint that the officers are quick on the draw. Basically, they're drawing weapons. I know there are rules for the police drawing weapons. A lot of times I've been told you don't draw it unless you're planning on using it or unless there really is an imminent threat. There's some subjective nature to figuring that out. But, you know, there was one video of a woman, you don't have to come out of the specifics, but, you know, a hypothetical woman has come to a stop. She has not brandished a weapon. Her car is stopped. The ICE agents get out, all guns drawn. That to me doesn't seem like it would be consistent with your policy. What is the policy on when you draw your weapon? Each of you, Mr. Scott first.
Within CBP, when the officer feels there's a threat, but in this specific, like the scenario you outlined, and not that specific, but with the vehicle can and is often used as a weapon. When we train to do felony stops, basically the officers, when they stop that vehicle, they're trained to have their weapons out and ready because they're stopping a felony. So it's not that simple that you have to wait until you see a weapon. Sometimes it's literally that officer presence to keep the situation under control. But the weapon's only supposed to be pulled when the agents believe that it's required to affect that law enforcement action.
In this instance, I don't think it was a person that was targeted. I think it was a person they might have had some suspicion of. It wasn't a person that was targeted. The problem is that nobody really looks at this, particularly this one instance, and thinks the police would do it that way. When police make traffic stops, they avoid the car, they come from behind the car, they'll often have their hand on their weapon, but you almost never see a policeman with a gun drawn on a traffic stop or any kind of stop unless they've either seen a weapon or they really are in fear of their life. I think, and this is just my opinion, you have to look at what your rules are for drawing weapons, because it appears to me they're not using the same standard as the police.
Sir, I could just speak to my experience. I've done thousands of traffic stops. Like I said, I was a 10-year city police officer prior to coming to ICE. And obviously, our training, we do fall back on the two main Supreme Court decisions, Tennessee versus Gardner, for one. And, we can't speak to the totality of the circumstances, especially in the case where we don't know exactly what it is. We can't go to that officer's mindset. So each one is separate. But if you look at the use of force, curriculum in the pyramid, officer presence is include one of those things. So to your point, sir, I've done it many times myself, felony traffic stop. In the case of ICE, oftentimes we do know it's a felon or wanted felon that we're going after. The firearm may be drawn. But again, each case is.
I think it does make a difference whether you're stopping a target who's a felon stop versus stopping a random person. In the instance that was displayed recently in the news, I don't believe it was a felony stop. I don't even believe it was a targeted stop.
No, sir, that's what I meant, to your point.
This, I think, probably was somebody filming that was annoying them or pestering them, and then they went and they followed the person and stopped them. And I think the weapons being drawn was inappropriate, but I would suggest that you need to look at these and you need to look at the policy, because I don't think they're living up to the same standard of the police. I think the police, frankly, are better trained, which is the other complaint that people have had. Have we rushed some of the people into the job, and have we not had adequate training?